for tuning in. This is Iman and Selena, and together we make You Plus Happy. Each week we bring you someone who challenges us to define success and happiness on our own terms with a dose of laughter. Remember to like and subscribe at You Plus Happy. And without further ado, hey Selena.
Hi Iman, how are you?
I'm good. It's warm out here, so I'm in a good mood. How are you doing?
Good. No complaints.
Good. Anything this week that brought you a little bit of happiness or something that, you reflected on?
Yeah, so usually I'm really frugal with my money, but I was at the mall with a friend and it was like, when you're with someone who's spending a little bit more liberally, you kind of fall into it. And I bought something for myself that's usually like I spent like $20 on it. I spent $100 and it was like a fancier version. And I was like, oh my gosh, this feels so good. It's not something I would do all the time, but yeah, the point is treat yourself.
Yes, that is important every now and then, for sure.
Yeah, I felt so good. What about you?
So I also treated myself. So I had anyone who knows me, I love my coffee. I always have it with me. So every morning I had my coffee and I ran out of coffee. I had an early meeting and I was like, I need my coffee. So I definitely ordered it. It's a $5 cup of coffee and an $8 delivery fee. And I was like, you know what, I'm doing this. And I don't regret it. It was amazing. But I definitely spent $13 on a cup of coffee.
I'm happy for you. I feel like as the fellow coffee addict, I would do the same more than once.
I mean,
if it calls for it.
Yes, it needed to happen. I don't regret my decision at all.
I'm so happy for you. This is on your way. This is a trajectory of you being like so fancy and like having coffee delivered.
I definitely felt judged when he delivered it though. Like,
mind your business, sir. You don't know my struggle.
A coffee? Like, yes, that was me. Thank you.
You don't know my life. Let me have this. Anyway, so this week we have guest Reem Ali-Adeeb. This is someone I used to volunteer with. I think she's so fantastic. She was born and raised in Damascus, Syria. She has a bachelor's degree in visual communication at the University of Damascus, a master's degree in animation and visual effects at the Academy of Art University in San Francisco, California. She's been a supervising character designer on Little Ellen at Warner Brothers Entertainment. Previously, a character designer and supervising designer on shows like Harley Quinn, Green Eggs and Ham, Teen Titan, Go DC, just to name a few. In addition to her work in animation, she does illustrations and editorial art. And we are privileged to have her here this week.
Yay. We're excited.
Side note for anyone watching, we recorded the intro a different day than the interview, and that's why it looks completely different. It's okay.
We did not do a wardrobe change in between.
Right. No, good point. And I did change location. But without further ado, here is Reem. All right, we're here with Reem. Yay! Yay! So the first question is, how did you get started?
Oh, well, in animation, you mean? Like in
yeah.
Well, so first of all, I wasn't born and raised here in the States. I'm from Damascus, Syria. So in Syria, there is only like one art school. They don't have animation schools or anything. Like they didn't have programs.
Yeah.
So I just went to art school. And in art school, there was actually a professor who was, his daughter worked in an animation studio in Syria. And I really wanted to do that. Like my family encouraged me to do it. I guess they saw that I'm not very good at like anything else. And like I really wanted to I was interested in making, cartoons and like working in animation. So his daughter was worked in that studio, and she actually kind of helped me out to take a test and get in. And when I got in, I was really interested. I learned a lot. They trained me over there, because unlike here in the States, the studios like expect you to know everything. Over there, it's a little bit different. So I got a lot of like software training and like, animation training in that studio. But then afterwards, I was it's still, there's a lot to learn over there. It's kind of like not very, advanced, or, it's a third world country. And my family, I was really lucky that my family had the means to send me to study abroad. My brother lives here. So I ended up doing my grad school here in San Francisco, actually. And I went to animation school here, did my grad in animation. And then I started applying. It was like 2011. It was like the end of the recession. Like things started to get a little bit better. And turned out like in animation, like they don't really get affected by like, what's happening. I guess people still watch TV no matter what. Right. So I ended up, I got lucky and ended up finding a job like within 6 months or so in a small studio here in LA. And then I moved here to LA because my grad school was in San Francisco.
Right. But when did you start animating? Like when you were little, like what made you were just good at drawing all your life?
I don't think I was good at I wasn't good at school. I was like good at like, literature or geography. Like I wasn't good at math and physics and scientific, And I would draw all the time. I would draw when I was when I wasn't, for fun. Like it's not just at school and stuff. I would draw all the time. And I like that I'm good at it in front of the class. Like that, I would show off to the kids, like, oh, look, I can draw a flower, it looks real, whatever. But I wasn't the best in the class or anything at drawing. I was never like the best in drawing. I think that's good to tell, kids these days, is like, you don't expect yourself to be the best at something right away.
Was there ever a time, so it sounds like you had a pretty supportive like family in terms of your animation, but was there ever a time where there was expectations that you would do something else? Totally. Do something else, and kind of what was your the turning point when you're like, no, this isn't for me?
Well, so when they told, like, my family always encouraged me, like, oh, you draw really well and you should like work in animation. I think they like incepted that idea. It's like, oh, look, it's but when things got like, okay, finished high school, now you get to learn what you want to do. My family was like, you should do architecture. Like they're like, to them it's like the one that there is drawing in it, but there is, and I am terrible at math and geometry and it takes, and I thought of the idea of like fine art is so cool to be an artist, it doesn't sound, architecture is different. And I don't know. They really pushed for that, but simply I just, went with the process of, like, you have to I'm a people pleaser, so it took a lot of weird navigation. It was never a like straight up like, no, I'm gonna do my own thing. It was like, please.
It sounds like that was the only way they could understand it, almost. Like, if you don't know about animation, because I don't know, I've never met anyone who does it professionally. So, right. and a lot of people draw for fun, but they don't go into that career. And so, and that's like if you don't know that world, they'll probably think, what I'm hearing is like, they're like, oh, well, that has drawing and I need my daughter to make a living. Like,
I think you're absolutely right. They're like, how is she going to make money?
yeah. And if you don't,
Mhm.
that's what I learned a lot about LA. Like when I went there, there was so many artists that aren't what you would traditionally think, that they have these cool jobs and these cool lives, and they like, but they're not famous or anything. But they love what they do. And
Yeah, they're not in front of the camera. They're not
yeah.
like it's just like set designers. They're having tons of fun in Halloween. They're like all these makeup artists that do these amazing stuff on Instagram. Like that has nothing to do with being famous, but it just, like you said, it's niche and fun.
Yeah, it's good for us to like know that those are possibilities, and it's not just what we see on TV. If you don't know those people, your mind is kind of not small, but you're limited, right?
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like people don't know that animation is actually a stable career. Like it's a career that has a union, that ends up you get benefits, you get a 401k, you get like some kind of pension at the end. Like people like actually like it, and especially because it's Burbank, like it feels very isolated a little bit, like this industry. Like I feel like, and because it's in LA, like it's like people don't know that it's actually a career and you can make money and retire from it and all of that. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's a really important point. But on this journey though, were there times where you wanted to quit, or where there were challenges or obstacles? And if like, how did you get through that?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I actually, not too long ago, 2 years ago, I stopped drawing at all. Like I didn't want to draw. I didn't want to do anything. For some reason, I don't know. I just listened to the negative things and focused on that more than the positive, and ended up internalizing it a little bit. And like certain rejections, you start like, instead of like keep focusing on your goal, you end up like with too much like focusing on that. And so that was like how I felt in 2018. But what brought me back was by the end of the year, like I didn't draw at all. But by the end of it, but I did other things. Like I worked out. At that time I started my relationship. I was hanging out. Like I was doing other things, and I was like, I should be happy, because if I convince myself that I'm not an artist, so why am I not happy? And I was actually miserable. So I decided, okay, I leaned all the way out and was miserable. What if I lean all the way in? So I started like drawing more. I actually start taking classes, even though I'm finished, like I'm 35, but I went back and started taking classes and learning. Like it was painting. It had nothing to do with animation, but learning a new skill, actually it really helps with breaking from something. Like just be in a vulnerable place where you're like a beginner. That strips you from your ego, and you start learning. You start like getting out of your head and thinking about like, how should I do this or learn this new skill? And that's what I would say really helped me, is to take that class. And then I started like, okay, I'm gonna focus on it. And I really improved, and I like got a better job than what I had. And I started drawing for myself at home as well, not only for work. So yeah.
That's such a good point. Go ahead.
Same thing. I was gonna say that I think that's such a great point, that you were able to realize like, hey, this is something that I'm doing, but in this moment I'm not happy, and taking a break from it and just trying to figure out like, what is it that's missing? What is it that's gonna make me happy? I think that's great, because I've known my own journey of just like success and reaching goals. You do have a lot of people that aren't so supportive and might have some negative thoughts or feelings about what you're doing, and being able to kind of like sit back and reflect and be like, all right, is this really what I want.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, I wonder, Iman, like, what do you think? Like, like, I know, like, this, I supposed to be answering the question, but I would love,
Right.
like, to hear, like, your input. Like, did you feel at some point where you're like, okay, I'm gonna lean all the way out from this? I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Selena knows this because I was pre-vet for years, and kind of in that same point where I was taking all these classes and realizing like, all right, I'm trying to reach this goal, but I'm not happy in this moment taking all these like math and science classes. Like it just wasn't my thing. So I did take a moment to just be like, okay, I need to step back and reflect on what it is I really like to do. And I actually went a totally different route and went into social work. And that's what's made me happy. But it took a while to accept that and be like, okay, like what is really going to make me happy at the end of the day?
Right. Yeah.
And Iman was like you too, Reem, when it was also like she had been saying it all her life that she was going to be a veterinarian, and she felt like she was going to let people down by not doing it too. So it's the same thing with like it's going back to what you said as far as people pleasing, and that shackles us so much. We're not thinking about what we want and just thinking about how are we going to please other people. And I think that it's a lot to do with what you said too, Reem. But that was part of hers too.
Yeah.
I heard one time that it for women it's more than men, like people pleasing, whether it's in person, like normal life or career, like or like not career, like what you end up doing with your life. Like your mom will expect grandchildren, the society will expect a certain attitude and a certain like personality of you, and sometimes it's hard, you don't even see it, you just fall into it, at least for me.
That's why we started this whole podcast. It was all about, because we live these kind of unconventional lives. Like a little backstory, Iman lives in Australia right now, and
I didn't know.
Time frames right now.
Well, yeah, 3 different time zones.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
And we both went and it's just we're not married with kids, and that's like exactly what you said. That's what's expected of us almost. And to do that, like I was talking to Joe about it when Joe was somebody we used to volunteer with, and I was like, sometimes I feel lonely when I don't follow what everyone wants me to do because I don't feel understood.
So
and I'm
true.
like, and so he was like, you have to get, Joe lives an unconventional life as well. He's a writer. I hope to have him on the show. But he is, he said you have to be convicted in who you are and accept that sometimes you will feel lonely. It's just part of the life you've chosen. And that really spoke to me because I hadn't thought about it. I was like, because I was always trying to fit in, because we're tribal. We want to be loved and have a sense of community.
Exactly.
And when the people you feel closest to don't understand you, they love you, but it feels very isolating sometimes. And so that was the whole reason we started this. Like we wanted to define success on our own terms and feel strong in it and feel confident. And so having people like you explain that's exactly what we're talking about.
To your point, like I thought it was like so true when you said like you feel lonely, but then acceptance, like, okay, oh, I get it, that's part of the deal. Like you get to enjoy the rest of the awesome thing of being unconventional, because honestly it's a lot of fun. Like it's great to not perhaps, like I'm not saying like it's right or wrong, it's something who you want to be, like not married with kids or like living a certain life, or like as long as you accept the entire thing. I love that. I feel like I learned something.
That's a good point too, like the pro side of it, because you did choose this life and you love it. So that's the part that is good. I didn't even bring that part up. Like I love how I live. If I was married with kids, I would be miserable. Like that's me. I'm not saying it's bad, but I
just happen to agree. Yeah, I agree with you.
It would make me happy. I know that. So and it would also be hurting other people. Like I would be putting these people in these miserable relationships because I'm miserable, and
exactly
all that regret and resentment. So yeah, I'll be a little lonely to not have to deal with that.
And I think too, just going off of that is just realizing being okay with your journey. So I feel like in my journey, there's been a lot of kind of like, oh, I don't understand why you're doing that, or you should be focused on this and that. And then when I get to my goal, then that's when a lot of the support is there. And they're like, oh, that's so cool that you're doing this or doing that. And just realizing like, well, when I first started, you weren't as supportive. So just being like focused on whatever it is that you're going towards and realizing not everyone is gonna understand or even accept, but
this reminds me, I heard that on actually on like a happiness podcast, like a, you know, they were saying that how sometimes when we compare ourselves to other people, we look at the best version of those people. Like I remember the example was like, if I ask you right now, like, do you like to party or do you like to go out? Your answer would be, you would think of the friend who is the most partying of ever, like the most outgoing, and you start comparing yourself to him. And accepting your journey is all about not comparing yourself. And when you look at other people, you don't look like, oh, this is the best, you know, person ever and I should be that person. Like, I think accepting where you are in your journey is definitely something to work on.
100%.
No, it's a good point.
I guess just going off of that, in terms of your journey, what would you say has been kind of like your biggest source of motivation or inspiration to keep going, despite maybe people not necessarily understanding or supporting you?
Well, I'm gonna say, like, sometimes it's not positive. I will be a hypocrite if I say like my drive comes from a positive place. My drive to success comes from a lot of the time fear and anxiety of failure. Or securing your legacy. I'm sure it's like normal. A lot of people think the same way. So there is a lot of that. But at the same time, recently I've started to love myself and respect things I like to do. Like before, I would dismiss, like, you know, doing a certain hobby because, oh, this is not gonna help me with my career, for example. But then after a while, you're like, no, if you want to do it because you like to, because it's something you enjoy. It's not something you have to do. I don't know if that answered the question, but
no, it makes a lot of sense. I definitely relate. Me and Mom were talking last week. We were recording something, and she said, "Will you do this with your working out and with your skin and this?" And I'm like, "That's all fear based. I'm worried about if I don't work out enough, I'm going to get big." Not that that's what, like, that's kind of like a shallow thing, but it motivates me to have something good at the end too. Like, even though it comes from, like you said, it could be considered a negative place, it still gets me somewhere that I want to go. Does that make sense? Like, it motivates me to go to the gym. I need to go there anyway. So it's not, you know, but it is fear-based. So I said that to say, like, you're not alone in that.
Yeah.
I think that's normal.
I wonder, like, I want to be that person who's doing, like, who's living the life that they enjoy rather than, like what you talked before, like expected from you, or not from other people, but like how Iman was like, I said I was gonna be a vet, so and that's something, like, is definitely a work in progress, because now recently I'm like, I'm just gonna do things that I enjoy and I love. I don't know.
What did you do? Because you said you worked on your loving yourself, like self-love. What did you do to create that? Like,
it was like, it became like something I started to think about recently, like after that year, after 2018. A lot of it, like, I'm sorry if it sounds a little geeky, like geeking out, but I would remember, like, seeing all my friends like drawing stuff for fun, like, oh, I love Star Wars, I just want to draw Star Wars. And to me, I was like, why would you draw something for fun? You have to practice to get better, to do something meaningful, or like for the community, or for the cause of the civil war, or for Syria, you know, like never occurred to me that you can just draw for fun. And then I stopped drawing altogether, because obviously I wasn't having fun. And that feeling of like, I want to start to pay attention to myself came from, you know, like this miserable year where I'm like, I need to start enjoying myself, because what's the point? There's no, like, what's the point? There's no point of doing something if you're not going to enjoy it.
And that's you said, and pay attention to how you feel. That's, I think, that I was talking to someone, and they were like, because I told them I had a little bit of anxiety, and they were like, well, where does it start? And I was like, I don't know. I'm like, you don't even know where your feelings are in your body. Like, you're not in tune with.
True.
That's a really good point. And I think we neglect that so much.
Actually, now that you said it, I also remembered at the end of 2018, I started therapy. I actually started going to therapy because I have anxiety. And the anxiety was going out of hand. Like, I was just, I was like, just like you said, I didn't know that, I didn't actually know the difference between stress and anxiety. I thought it's all the same thing, but I would just get these psychosomatic, they call it. Like, I would get like, feel a lump, or my head hurts and I think I'm sick. And I would go to the doctor and they're like, you're not sick, you're just anxious. And then that's when I started therapy. And the therapist said, well, it manifests when you don't know how you feel, your body will tell you that, your body will be like, oh, there's something totally wrong. But if you catch it before, you're like, actually, you're anxious, you're aware, it won't go that far to like, for physical body to feel it.
That's so crazy. I used to do that too when I was in LA. I used to do that. I had such anxiety in LA because I was away from my family and stuff. And when I tell you, the only reason I stopped, because the doctor bills were a little too expensive for me. And I was like, I can't afford to keep having these fake illnesses. I have to get in control of this. I mean, it's still something I deal with, but that's a really good, so that's just the funny part of it. You're gonna pay these extra doctor bills.
And then like you go and they look at you like,
wrong.
Like, bye. Here's your $200 bill. Thanks.
I swear I did that. But then I got real illnesses too. Like, my skin was really bad. I had really, really bad acne. I had it when I started volunteering with you all. I don't know if you remember, I probably won't consider that. But it was coming out in those ways too. And I ended up having a heart condition. And I really think it was because I was so lonely at a point in LA because I didn't know anyone. So it does come, no, I'm good now. Everything's fine. But I'm just saying that to say, like, it is so important to pay attention to your body. And I believe, I'm not a doctor, obviously, but I do believe some of that stuff comes from like our emotions and our thoughts and stuff. And I don't have any of that now. Like, I feel loved, I feel more confident, and I don't feel lonely, and my skin's been better, and the heart condition, it was just like a one-time thing. It can repeat, but I think I'm better. So I think it can manifest in those ways.
That is so like that is incredibly relatable. Like, it feels great to hear that, because I had the same thing, and I started volunteering to help myself feel better.
Me too. Me too.
And like, honestly, and it did help. I honestly, I have to say on the podcast about Selena, I told you the story, but I think I texted you that one time.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you the story, Iman. So the very first time, me and Selena know each other because we both volunteered at that children's shelter. And one of the projects, one of the nights every night we get to do a project with the kids. And that night project was like, write a letter to your future self, and try to imagine what you need, what you want to be in the future, whatever. And then I sat down and I was like writing about going back to Syria, and there's civil war in Syria. I can't go back. And then I looked at Selena and I was like, Selena, like, I'm so sad. Like, I can't, you know, go home, go to Syria. Like, it's affecting me so much. And then Selena goes like, girl, why are you thinking about things you can't change? No, you were like, wait, why don't you go? And I'm like, I can't for, you know, there's, you know, visa and war and stuff. And she's like, then don't think about things you can't change. Like, don't worry about that. It's like the way you told me, it was kind of like, why are you listening to cassettes when there's Spotify? Like, you know, like the way you delivered it to me was in a way that I was like, yeah, of course. Like, don't focus on things you can change. Don't worry about things you can't change. So it was a good moment. It was like a thing I always like try to keep in mind after you told me about it.
And I'm glad that happened because I don't even remember.
She dropped bits of wisdom.
When she texted me, I was like, but I really think that was probably a message coming through me. I talked to Iman about that. Like, I really think that was something like you know, somebody will say something in passing that you don't even know, and it just resonates with you.
Yes. Yeah.
That, I feel like that wasn't me, you know, like I feel like it came through me.
It could be,
you know,
but like your message went to my friend because not too long ago I texted Selena reminding her of the story because a friend of mine who's Iranian, she was telling me the same thing. She was like, I'm so sad, I can't go back home, I miss home. And then I'm like, girl, why are you focusing on things you can't do? Focus on things you can't control. Yeah.
That's such a good reminder. So I have this, it's been my screensaver on my phone for probably like a year and a half now. And it's the same concept. It's just keep your mind on the things you want, because I think it's so easy to focus on all the things that aren't going right or all the things that aren't like in alignment with what you're trying to do. So when you just have that quick little like shift, it makes such a big difference for sure.
So true. Reem, so when this is changing gears a little bit, but when have you ever thought about when you leave a room, what will people think about you, or what would you want them to think about you when you're not around?
Oh wow, that's a good question. It depends on the room, I would say. Like no one can say like, oh, I don't care about what people think. Like, not all people, but I'm sure you have certain people you care about what they think of you. So like if I leave a room of like people I don't respect or people that don't care about me or understand me, I don't care. I could not care less what they think. But I think if the room is full of people that I respect and they respect me and we care for each other, I think I worry too much sometimes, you know. So, but I do care, you know. So it really depends. I try like to keep that circle small. I try like I feel like I have two concerns, like a couple of people that I really respect and I care for them to you know, to think the best of me, which is like, you know, my boyfriend, my family, kind of like, you know, and peers that I really admire at work, and like all my followers on Instagram. Like, so either like the tiny room and then the whole planet.
Yeah. No, I do that too. I get
so much pressure on yourself.
True.
I told Iman the same thing. Like, even with, I never throw parties for myself. I threw a birthday party and I was like, I'm never doing that again because it's giving me so much anxiety. Like, what did everybody think? Did everybody have fun? Oh my, like that was the worst birthday. And I was like, I can't.
Oh my God, yeah, I really relate to this. I really relate to this.
I'm looking for the opposite, where I'm like every year I'm like, ooh, let's do something.
If she invites a bunch of people and she doesn't care what they think, I'm like she treats them all with respect, but she's not like, are you having the best time of your life? Like,
I'm having a good time.
It really depends. Like if people I hate, I'm like, I become like, I don't care. But if people I really love, I become like too much. Like, do you hate me? Do you love me? You know, like.
Yeah. That's something I've been like, I've seen a lot of progress in myself with, but it's definitely still there. But the people that you do admire and you do respect, what do you want them to think about you?
I think I want them to think that I have my. Oh, I forgot. Can we can't swear. Like, we shouldn't
You
swear.
can
Really.
swear, you can do whatever you want.
Whatever makes you happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want them to think that I have my shit together. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah. Yeah. I honestly, and this is like a side note too.
Yeah.
When I volunteered with everybody, I was like, everybody in there, or people I admire and respect, like they all had these cool jobs. They're all living life how they want to live it. And I would always leave so happy, but also with anxiety, like, do they think I'm dumb? Do they think this? Do they think that? Even in the emails, I'm like they're saying all these clever jokes, and I'm like, that's like I'm like, I don't know what to type, and I still want to engage and I still want to talk because these are people I respect and admire, and so that's why I still do it. If I didn't care, well, I probably wouldn't have that anxiety. But even with the emails, I'm like, did I just send a dumb email? And if it's like one sentence, if I write a lot and then there's one sentence back, I'm like, oh, this didn't work. This wasn't a good one. So I just said that to say, like, that was a room that I felt like privileged to be in, even with the girls, everybody. And I did feel immense anxiety. Like, I would have a high from how fun it was and how like what we did there, and then after the high, I'd be like, wait, oh, they think I'm dumb. And there was times I didn't even go because I was so nervous, or I thought I had said something bad to the kids, or I didn't. And Iman convinced me to go back once because this was before you started. I was like, this girl, she's like, we were, I got competitive in there, and I was like too aggressive or something, and I was like, oh God, I didn't go back. And Mom was like, I don't think anybody cares, but Joe did remember. He called me out. He was like, yeah, I remember.
He's so funny. He catches like one thing and he like reminds.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's so funny because I think everyone has that. Like even I had the same feeling, like even about you, like I was like intimidated, by you, and by like, it felt like everybody, just like you said, like are super cool and like they have the time from their busy schedule, and like it's interesting, but like I have to remind myself that probably everyone like has like a mess side. Like I have like a mess side, and you probably like, you're funny, you're saying like oh, everybody has like cool job, and you're probably is like the coolest like of everyone, and probably because like coming to the podcast today, that's how I felt. I was like, I'm not cool enough. Like, what am I gonna say?
I was like, she does way cooler things. I was like, she had all these shows, and she did all these cool things, and she rides a scooter. And
Selena was telling me a little bit about what you did. I was like, yes, bring her on, like invite her, because you were a little bit hesitant, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
It's all smokes and mirrors. It's all trying to be cool, like
yes.
it's literally
we're doing
trying.
A good job. You're doing a good job, everybody. Because I was like, nobody in LA was riding a scooter. Like, you should come to the volunteer thing, like, skirt.
And the scooter was because I didn't have money for a car. I just
and I'm just thinking you're the coolest girl ever. She's like,
thank you, Selena. Coming from you means a lot, actually. Coming from you, like, I feel a little cooler, to be honest.
Me too. Now I'm just gonna have all this confidence for like a week, and then it'll wear off again.
Yeah, of course. It will go away within on Monday when you get like the first.
I'm gonna post a story or something like, I'm cool, Reem said it.
Oh well, I think we just like when you look at other people, like you look at their social media, you forget like it's not like we're still in our sweatpants. Like it sometimes it gives like like some kind of image that is very different than the person.
Reality for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like you said, smoke and mirrors. That's all it is for the most part. And this is like it's just a little piece of the puzzle.
Yep. Yep.
Tiny piece.
Exactly. So I guess switching gears a little bit. So we talked about just kind of what a lot of times like society has this idea of like what it means to be successful. You're supposed to do this by a certain age. What is your definition of success, and like when are you happiest?
Oh, okay. Definition of success. I never, believe it or not, I never thought about it, because obviously we think about money, like whoever say money is not important are either dumb or super rich or something. But because money is important, like being financially successful is important, but definitely it's not everything. I think success as for me is to be living comfortably while doing something you love. I think that's what do you guys think? I would love to hear your thoughts, Selena and Iman.
No, I think that's true. I've never had someone like flip the question on me, but I do agree, like doing something that you love, something that you look forward to every day, and something that doesn't feel like work. Like you mentioned, when you draw, it's just something that you like to do. So I think that's a level of success.
And I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it just occurred to me that happiness does not equal success. Like you can be successful and you have a job, like successful career-wise, and you have like money in the bank, or a house or a car, but not necessarily happy. You might be working so hard that you don't have time to spend your money, for example, or you might be with someone who is not like worthy of your time and money and success. So it really, I think happiness is a different story, I would say.
I like that. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, I think I guess it depends on, and I guess that's why we ask all our guests kind of like what their definition is, because for me, like happiness is success. So like me having a lot of money is not success for myself if I'm miserable with that money. Like I wouldn't consider myself successful. So it's just interesting to hear like everyone's perspective of what it means to them.
That's really like broader than what I thought, because when I think of success, I just think of career, not in life. And that really releases the pressure on the career. Like if you're like a good, like a person or like a happy person, you're not only, just beating yourself up about, career or stuff like that. I don't know. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I feel like I should have a neat, quick answer since I'm hosting this podcast.
No.
I really think it's important to say, like, I feel like this year was probably one of my most successful years, but from America's standards, they would probably say I was like a loser or something, but I don't care. This year, I got to see how much my friends and family care about me. You take it for granted almost, especially when you live apart from them. I was going through a tough time with something, and they showed up for me. I don't care if people call themselves my friends. They were there, and I didn't have to ask. Like, they were just showed up for me. So to me, that's success. I don't know. That made me feel so full and so like so good that was reaffirmed that I had these friends that I can really rely on when it matters. And the same with my family. We definitely have our struggles. I have struggles with my mom and stuff, but she still has my back, and I know I'm lucky to have that. So those relationships,
I think that's
so important. Without those, and I saw that in LA, not that I was successful in any other area, but I didn't have those relationships. I was it was the darkest, most miserable time of my life because I didn't have those. And I've met people, but those weren't solid, you know.
Yeah, it was a support group, like your support
exactly.
group.
And it wasn't my sense of community and all that. So I would feel lonelier when I was with these people. So, so I think I would say that was success for me. And y'all, I'm thinking about all this because I wrote this thing today, and I think that's where all this is coming from. And then also, you said you were excited to come on, Reem, and I wanted to have more of a discussion. Usually I always talk a lot, but not this much. But I wanted you to get a lot out of it too. So, but anyway, and then I got a certification that was very fulfilling for me because I worked hard at it and I got it. So I'm saying all those things to say, like, and then part of it for me is money, and that makes me happy. I don't care because it makes me feel secure and I feel safer. So I do agree with you. Like I think they said 72,000 in America a year. After that hits like your cap. That's where you can meet all your basic needs. You do need like that much to have, like, because you need food and shelter and like you want to do things. Even if you take classes, you got to pay for them. I had to pay for my AC, my certification. I had to pay to take. So you do want to have, and when you wanted to go to therapy, you could just go to therapy. You could afford that. So
that's an expense. That's not,
you need those basic needs met. So I do like seeing my account go up by living with them. Not saying I'm not rich rolling in the dough yet, not going with, but so having the basic needs met and having a sense of community and doing something that makes you feel fulfilled, like you guys said, like, oh yeah, I could have tied that up in a quick flow.
Just to validate you, Selena, I think some of my relationships are like my most valuable possessions. Like certain friendships and certain relationship are like true accomplishments. So just validating your point, like it's an absolute success, like you said.
100% agree.
I want to remember that. I feel like I'm learning a lot, you guys.
That's good. And you know, our next question ties right into this. So it's so our inner circle is really important. And so how do you choose who you surround yourself with? Because you said you keep your circle small. How do you choose them?
I think a lot of in LA, you lived in LA, you know how
Mine
it's
lived
like,
in LA too, so.
You guys know. It's kind of like, it kind of encourage isolation. So it kind of, you need to go out of your way to hang out and just stay in connection with the people you care about. So I think I'm a little behind on creating my support group. I try to especially during COVID, I think a lot of like great relationship got revived, which makes me so grateful. Certain people from college and grad school, which is incredibly cool to hear back from them. But to answer your question, like, what do you do? I try to not wait for that person to call, or like, I remember a lot of my friends, they're like, "You're hanging out with Guillermo? He never, he never calls me. He never," and I'm like, "Yeah, I called actually. I'd ask him if he wants to hang out." Like, people forget. People think like, "Oh, I guess, like, do initiate. Just say fuck it. I'll just be vulnerable and initiate." I do initiate with friends. Part of it is because I'm people pleaser, and another part is because you kind of need to do it here in LA. Otherwise, like, no one's gonna see anyone.
That's true. That's something Iman talked about. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's so important because I'm on the other end of the spectrum where I get so wrapped up in like what I'm doing and like the day to day that I do forget to reach out. And that's something that I'm working. I've actually started to put like little alerts in my calendar just to remember to like reach out. And it's not intentional, but I think, like you said, there's a level of vulnerability to be like, I'm reaching out and I'm the one like initiating. So it's so great that you like do that and you're like, I don't care. Like, if they haven't called me, I'm still gonna reach out.
So Iman, when you put it in your calendar, you put it because you miss those people, or you were like, I should Like,
So
what did that?
Yeah, so I put it as a reminder, and Selena will tell you my circle is very small, but I feel like I have a good like group of friends. But I put it in there more so as like a reminder to make connections, because I feel like there will be time just goes so fast, and there will be like weeks, and I'm like, oh, I haven't reached out to this person in like a month, and not because I'm not thinking about them. It's just actually getting on, and the time difference is a bit challenging, but like
Sure.
actually taking the time out to call someone. I think with the podcast, it's really nice because me and Selena are forced to talk to each other every week, which I love.
Yeah, me too.
But I think I just get so wrapped up in everything else that like I forget. And then when you do have these conversations, it's like, oh, I miss that, or like I miss that connection.
Yeah.
Just to give yourself more credit, Iman was great at reaching out when we lived in LA. Because I wasn't willing to be vulnerable, and she would reach out a lot and invite me to stuff. So I'll give you a little bit more credit, but no, it's different now.
We're like going out and about, yes. I'm like, let's do this, let's go do that. But
you're on the calendar, Selena. She put you in the calendar. Like I want to do that now. Like put,
Yeah,
like,
that's such a good idea.
Yeah, because otherwise, true. Like you might completely forget. And like you said, like, oh, I thought of you. Like, yeah, I thought, but I didn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, we have to all like take more initiative. Okay, well, not you, Reem. You said you're vulnerable. Oh, that's a good point. I learned something today.
I have to learn from Reem.
Yeah, learn like be more vulnerable, because I guess it's like make it scary. You might get rejected, or sometimes I'm like I don't have anything to say. But that's really good.
Yeah. So I guess one of the questions is in terms of people that are listening to the podcast that might want to go into animation or do something a little bit outside of what societies would say is like the norm, what piece of advice would you give them?
Oh, yes. Please, please join us in the animation world. I would say if you feel that you love to draw, you enjoy just drawing and stuff, please consider going to art school. I think there's so many ways you can have a lot of success. You can build a career through art school, whether in graphic design, whether it's in animation, whether it's in illustration. Right now, media is blooming. Like it's because of technology and all of that. There's a lot of work that in animation and media in general. I would say for aspiring artists that want to get into animation, take online classes. If you don't have the means to go to art school, take online classes or look at tutorials on YouTube. There's so much resources right now online to learn more. And like while art schools can be expensive, especially for young folks, like taking individual classes, you can accumulate the skills you need to become a professional. So don't dismiss it. And also there are free resources on YouTube, on Pinterest, like tons of tutorials, tons of things. And don't be afraid to reach out to individual artists. So many get so happy to hear from other people who are encouraged, who are like, want to do the same. It's flattery, right? Like people would love to help out, would love to talk to you about it. I can't think of, like, I would say just seek resources online, try to take art classes. And I have to say, like, I talked to my friend Maddie. He's not a lot of African Americans are in animation, and we want diversity. Like we want people of color to come and tell their stories. And when me and Maddie talked, he told me like, well, a lot of like Black folks don't think of animation as a source of income, or like I don't want my kid to become an artist. That doesn't sound like a good career. And I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. Like Arabs are kind of like similar, but at the same time, I'm like, we would love, to reach out to more like Black artists to come join us, because there's not enough. Genuinely, there's not enough.
And I saw you post about that too. Yeah, so
there is a lot more there's more movement towards that. Like they would be like, oh, we want to hire like a Black artist, or like a person of color artist, but like, why aren't you reaching to like the community? Like, why aren't you having like art program in schools, so kids can have that option of like, oh, maybe I'll go to art school. It seems like every Black artist I know is incredibly talented, where like he couldn't help it, like everybody saw, where like they're probably a lot more artists, but they're not like prodigies that decide not to go into art, so we hope for all skill levels to come to animation. It's genuinely too white, I think, like I am the only Middle Eastern in the entire company, to be honest. Maybe there's one Iranian person, so yeah.
And then you'll get a different are you saying like, and then you'll get a different perspective too, like a story from a different lens too?
Definitely.
Yeah. And that's
because like you start as a storyboard artist or a character designer, and then sooner or later, you're gonna get better and better, and perhaps at some point become a showrunner, or like create your own show, and you get to tell a story that is not the vanilla, the same thing over and over. Tell like a story that from your history, from your own culture, if anything, enrich the content that we have right now, that is kind of similar a little bit.
Yeah, those are really great points. I hadn't thought about that. I obviously hadn't thought about that.
It's just like we don't know without like thinking about it. But the movement, honestly, that happened this summer made a lot of us pay attention, and Warner Brother, where I work, like they started paying attention. That's like, what the heck, we need more Black folks, we need more diversity.
Yeah. And I think it's too, like, going back to what you were saying, how you knew someone who was in animation. And I think a lot of it is also that exposure, because I worked in schools for 8 years before coming here, and like, they're not in the community. They're not coming and talking to kids about like, this is what you can do with this skill or this career. So It's kind of passed off as like, oh, that's just something you can do for fun, but like, don't really put too much energy into it. So I think you made a really good point with that, in terms of, being out there, so that people realize like, oh, this is a career choice that I can.
Yeah, like, how would you know? How would the kid know? Like, how can he have the conviction to tell like the family, like, no, I actually talked to this artist and he told me I have a pension and I have retirement and all of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I guess, oh, sorry, did you have something, Selena?
No, I was just gonna say, did we have any, because we set out our questions, but
I'm curious about projects that you're working on right now, Reem, if you're able to like share anything.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
I mean, right now I'm lead designer on a show called Little Ellen. It's going to be on HBO Max next summer.
Big things.
hey,
I hope it happens, because when
I've heard stories about Hollywood.
But and also on my own, I'm doing a comic book, like a comic book story, and hopefully also I want to finish it next year. That's what I'm working on, and like bettering myself. Just keep drawing to get better.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Wow. Right. Was there anything else, Iman or Reem? Any more questions?
Well, I just want to thank you guys so much for, for doing this. Like, just talking to you makes me feel like, like there are cool women out there doing super cool things that are inspiring, and makes me want to, like, do things. So I just love what you guys are doing, and I love the way you think about things and the way you look at things. I hope more people can be like you.
Oh,
thank
Reem,
you.
we're gonna do our outro, but I'm so happy. There are no words. I'm so happy you could do this show, and that you took your time to do this with us. Like, and it's been great.
I'm grateful
I'm
too.
so excited. So,
Yay! Well, you gotta send me the link, please, or
yeah.
any.
But I'm gonna send it to you for sure.
Thank you. Best of luck. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much
for being on the show.
And then we'll do our outro. So go ahead, Iman. I'm sorry.
So thank you, Reem, for being on the show and inspiring our listeners to redefine success for themselves. To learn more about your work, is there any place that listeners can go?
Oh, you can go to my Instagram at Remo Supremo, REEM Supremo.
We'll put that in the show.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Okay.
And thank you, listeners. We couldn't do this without you. Again, don't forget to leave a comment and review. We always appreciate your feedback. You can subscribe at U+Happy Podcast and follow us on Instagram at U+Happy.
And we will see you next week, same time, same place. And we ask our guests to say our tagline. It's a little long, Reem, but it is, we'll show you our definition of success if you show us yours.
Oh, sure. We'll show you our definition of success if you show us yours.
Yay!
You got it the first time.
Yay, go Reem.
Go Reem.
Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Oh,
Bye.
bye. Bye.